Did I finally go too far by enforcing a boundary at the airport? I grew up in a household where love came with conditions and anger came without warning. By the time I was barely a teenager, things had escalated so badly that social services intervened and I was legally placed with my other parent. During that process, my mother made it painfully clear how she felt about me. On official paperwork, she wrote that she no longer had a child. That single sentence followed me for decades and permanently shattered what little sense of family I had left. For most of my adult life, I coped by self-destructing. I drank heavily through my 20s and 30s, drifting from job to job, relationship to relationship, until I finally got sober several years ago. Sobriety forced me to confront old wounds, and against my better judgment, I reached out to my mother again. She was nearing 70 by then and had already lost contact with most of her children. I hoped time had softened her. It hadn't. When I cautiously asked if she had ever reflected on the past, she dismissed it entirely and told me to stop living in the past. I realized then that any relationship we had would require me to stay quiet about my pain. Despite that, we maintained a fragile connection. Occasional family gatherings, long phone calls that turned into arguments, even a tense international trip that felt more like emotional endurance training than a vacation. Still, I kept trying. Last year, I invited her to visit me in my city to see a musician she'd adored since my childhood. The plan was specific and short. She'd arrive midweek, we'd attend the show, she'd leave the next afternoon to visit my siblings, and I'd depart early the following morning for a work trip. The moment she arrived, she casually mentioned she'd only purchased a one-way ticket. My stomach dropped. I reminded her, several times, that I wouldn't be home after her scheduled departure and that I wasn't comfortable with anyone staying in my home while I was away. Each reminder was brushed off with vague reassurances. After the concert, she admitted she still hadn't booked a flight. Prices had increased, she said, and she decided to stay a few extra days instead. Alone, in my house, while I was gone, I told her clearly that I was leaving before sunrise and that she needed to be on a plane. I even offered to pay the difference. She refused, accused me of treating her like a stranger, and insisted that being my mother gave her the right to stay. The argument exploded. Finally, she snapped and demanded I take her to the airport. I think she expected me to fold like I always had before. I didn't. I drove her there in silence, unloaded her bag, and told her that if she couldn't secure a flight, I'd help pay for a hotel. Then I walked away, heart pounding, knowing exactly how dramatic it looked. It's been months, and I still replay that moment, standing at the curb, choosing myself for the first time, and wondering if setting that boundary cost me whatever fragile peace we had left, or if it was the only choice I ever really had.